My name is Suar. We did the MPGR Roundtable yesterday for Melee, which was a lot of fun. Today with me we have PGstats, Dabuz, Zinoto, Dom, Mask. Why don't each of you just take a second to tell us who you are, where you're from, and then we'll go ahead and get started with today's review of 50 through 41 on the PGR V5. So, Tas, you're up first.
Alright, I am PGstats. I do the rankings, the actual algorithm itself. I write it, code it, implement it, update it,
Drop it
whenever we screw up, pop it, etc. And mostly sort of Melee background, but I dabble in other Smash games from time to time.
We appreciate that.
Awesome. So yeah, Tas does a lot in Melee. He was forged in Melee. We're lucky to have him here on the Smash 4 side, so thank you, Tas. Dabuz, who are you? Where are you from?
I'm pretty good at this game. I live in New York, but my reach is basically Wi-Fi. And you're gonna see me on a lot of these players' win cards, probably.
I don't know if Mooj made it this
I don't know a lot.
I don't know if Mooj made it.
The lost card.
I think Mooj over you is probably the biggest upset compared to that Palatine over Zero. What was his name?
Yeah. Oh, Prince Ramen.
Prince
Ramen.
Top
Yeah,
two.
Definitely top
matchup's
three.
like 80.
The
Prince is like 80-20.
Yeah.
Alright, so
I
thanks to
deserve
Buzz.
it, yeah.
Zinoto from the Midwest, you came out of hiding. Welcome. Who are you? Where
Right? So, I'm Zinoto. I'm from Michigan. I'm a Smash player. I play Tekken as well. I play a bunch of games. But yeah, no, I'm Zinoto from Michigan.
Awesome, thanks. Zinoto obviously usually missing from certain tournaments, but always showing up in the Midwest, so glad to have
Come
you
on,
here.
Man. I'm always there in spirit.
Yeah, of course. So, Dom from PGstats, how you doing?
I'm alright. I'm the birthday boy. I'm Smash forecaster, writer, analyst. Trying to do a little bit of everything. When Ultimate comes out, I'll play and do the same thing.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dom. We're not going to sing
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
But happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Dom, of course, does a lot of the article writing for the PGR. You'll catch some of his articles already out now on the Red Bull site. But he's a great writer, so you can check him out. And then lastly, we have Mask from Florida. How you doing, Mask?
I'm well. Some tough acts to follow. But hey, everyone, I'm Mask. I am a Smash 4 commentator, lover of fighting games. I play Smash and Pokken and some other stuff here and there. And yeah, mostly known for my commentary, if you know me. But yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Mask. We had originally met at Too Hot to Handle back in South Florida last year? Was that last year? Was that last summer?
Yeah, man, South Florida. Florida's been not too many majors since CEO, man.
Yeah.
But Smash 5, hopefully, everything will.
We're talking about
change.
Too Hot to Handle, right?
Yeah.
That was Halloween weekend of last year.
Oh my god. Well, Mask, of course, a very seasoned commentator in South Florida, also player of many other games, so glad to have him, have his perspective. And then I see that we have... Okay, cool. So, just so everyone knows, you're tuning into the roundtable for the PGR V5. We had 50 through 41 come out today, and we're going to talk a little bit about our impressions on it, what we think of the list itself so far, who we're predicting, as well as some snubs, and we'll get to some Q&A at the end. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into the first section, which is the general impressions on the PGR V5. This is the 5th season, so there's been 4 before it that have been received in very different ways. The last season, of course, being the most recent before this one and featuring a lot of new talent, as well as some older talent. But I wanted to know from you guys, you know, both player side, caster side, content creator, how's the PGR doing in your eyes at this present moment? You know, it's summer 2018, Smash Ultimate's been announced, but how has that been, you know, sort of received on your end?
Are we going in order? Or are we just...
Whoever wants to talk first.
Alright.
Everyone talk over each other.
Okay, that's fair. Well, in my eyes, the PGR was originally... The goal of it was, in my eyes, was to foster kind of like... it was just to get Smash out there. They wanted other sponsors, other organizations, other everything to kind of know what the better players are, what's out there, for these organizations to come and grab at. And it just highlighted the better players of each season, and I feel like that the job was done. And then as the seasons grew on and as we started to kind of understand what the players had to offer, how strong they were, as we knew who the players were, when Japan started coming over and Mexico and France, that's when it started to get more controversial, because now that we started to understand what the players had to offer, they were like, well, this player is better than this. PGR is being more biased towards this. And then, the Panda Global started signing a lot more players, and they're like, okay, well, every time Panda Global signs a player, they get on the PGR about, all these controversial opinions. And but I think the overall goal of the PGR was met. We started out with nothing. Coming from Brawl, like, this would have been unheard of. Coming to all the tournaments that we had, all the opportunities that we were given. The best thing you could have gotten from being ranked is going to a tournament and everybody saying, like, hey, can I have your autograph? Now, we're like, it's a nationally recognized. You go to somebody, yeah, it's everything. We got it down now. So I think the goal of the PGR was met, and now that it's getting a lot bigger, there's a lot more opinions that can be had. So I think that's the kind of like the bottom line of it for me.
And just for perspective, in the Brawl days, like, how many people would you consider a major?
Oh, it was great. I was just talking about this yesterday with a couple of friends. We were looking at some of, like, the bigger tournaments. There were 56 people at it. I was like, oh, you remember how big this tournament was? And I looked at the entry count. It was like 50. It was a major. You go to Apex, and we're calling, like, 100-man tournaments, supernatural, super majors. I was like, what is happening?
Amazing.
Yeah, and it was like
that was Monday night in SoCal.
Yeah, there were like players from Japan and stuff there, and like, oh my god, this tournament's still stacked, 100 people. Like, it's just like, okay.
All right.
I think the biggest event was like 300 people max.
Yeah.
Like a top event.
That was like near the end too. Like.
Okay.
To all his Brawl days.
Any other thoughts on PGR from first to now? Anything anyone wants to say?
I'll go next if no one else has an idea.
Yeah, I have something I just want to touch on as well.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the PGR has done a great job of adding so much like legitimacy to what we all do, and how professional it's all professionally it's all been handled, and how it's not just because in the grassroots days, who knows how things were ranked before. It was just kind of like here are our best, you're your best, here's and it was just so much more kind of trivial in how it was handled. And I don't know, I think it's done a great job to make people on the outside looking in take it so much more seriously, which I think is one of the great things that it's done for the community.
Cool.
Yeah, shout outs to that top 5 thread back in, but that was the way we handled things.
Oh my god!
On what website? On Smashboards?
On Smashboards. It was awful. I actually know the guy that made the thread. It was so much argument. That was like the law. That if there was a PGR in Brawl, that was it. And it was so unofficial that it was awful.
I remember that thread got locked because there was too much flaming and arguing.
Oh yeah.
The classic.
Just took it to the streets.
If only we could lock threads online, like entire Twitter threads, that'd be nice.
Just lock people.
But yeah, what about from the top though, Dabuz? What do you think? How's it affected you? What do you want from it? What has it done? What hasn't it done for you?
One thing I really like is that it makes it easier to know what tournaments are worth looking at from both the player side of what should I attend versus what should I skip up, to spectators I can tell someone, hey, this event has these PGR players and this level of ranking, so this is worth watching more than this other event. And that kind of organization makes it really easy to just tell people about the scene and basically sell stories about the events and the players. And that's really nice. And then obviously everything Zinoto said, it's just really good to have an organization on who is the best to sell to sponsors. But really is the difference between going to a tournament and not knowing if it's even a big tournament versus now knowing based on numbers, this event is big and we should watch out for it. It's so convenient. Everyone benefits from that.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, and of course there's still tweaks to be made because there's events that feel like they should count and then they don't, and then we run into a problem there. But totally great that as a top player you have essentially an itinerary made for you every season. That's pretty useful.
Yeah. The one thing that's annoying, of course, is when people sign up late, but
yeah,
that's just people being really annoying. Oh, by the way, guys, a week before the event, I'm gonna go to this event. I'm a top 10 PGR player. Like, you gotta be kidding me, bro.
Or the airline matchup. The airline matchup was pretty.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Did you miss any flights, Zinoto? Did you miss any flights this season?
I'm not. Mind you, I've only gone to like 2 things that require a flight, but
Hey, look, 2 for 2. We'll take it.
yeah. Hey, I'm coming. They're coming through. Just wait. Top 10 next season.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna be all over Dabuz's lost card next season.
Oh my god.
Zinoto times 12.
Bro, if there was an unofficial lost card, you would have been like a good chunk of it.
Yeah, we had some good sets.
Oh
this
my
season.
god.
Even if they aren't for PGR, we had some good sets.
Yeah. You know, they count on our hearts, right?
Hell yeah.
I took it to heart. I was like, yo, I lost.
Yeah.
This isn't PGR, but I'm still tight.
I was at hour. Nice.
Yeah. So just to get one last perspective, since TAS is of course here, you know, you've been involved with the Melee on Me rankings now MPGR since 2015, correct?
Yes, yes.
And so how do you
Been
see?
doing stuff.
Yeah, and by then, when did Smash 4 come out? 2015 or 2014? 2015.
November 2014.
2014. Okay, so you were there.
Oh.
So you've seen the entire evolution. So how do you think like Melee's parallels to us and us forming our own nomenclature, taxonomy, all that? How do you think it's affected the scene since when you saw it begin with like Apex 2015 roof collapsing, everybody like being arguably top 10 player, blah 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 blah.
I would. Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. I would say that the main difference, I guess, from the Melee side to the Smash 4 side is, I guess, specifically the reason why we use the algorithm for Smash 4 versus the panelists for Melee, which is that on the Melee side you have this sort of built-in group of people who have been paying close attention to all of the events and paying close attention to all of the results and sort of already have this sort of idea of this framework of where players are supposed to be. And so with the Melee scene, it's always sort of been this undercurrent of like, okay, so this player is clearly a top 10 win. This player is clearly not. This player is here. This player is there. Whereas on the Smash 4 side, and Brawl back in the day, there was never really that kind of like, okay, so we're confident that this player is within this range. Just everybody's kind of just seems up in the air. And so on the Smash 4 side, you have a lot more questions and a lot more up in the air and a lot fewer sort of experts. And so to me, that kind of is the prime kind of place where you would throw an algorithm at the problem. Whereas with the Melee side, you already have these group of people with very strong opinions about who goes where, and if somebody disagrees with them, they're going to have a nice argument about it. So
okay, so we're pretty good at having arguments, but they're not always nice.
Oh, yeah.
If you were to ballot for this season, TAS, you wouldn't have Zaki, the Japanese day-to-day, in your top 25? Is that what you're saying?
You wouldn't have no, that's Melee side. You wouldn't have DK Will in your top 50, Suar?
Got it.
Yeah, so obviously with Melee, like, they have a different culture when it comes to looking at results. I know Zinoto and Dabuz can attest to this being top players, but, you know, I think that the relative, like, span of a Smash 4 player's memory or fan is a lot shorter than a Melee player's. I mean, have you guys been called washed more times than you can count just for missing an event? Like, all of a sudden you're just absolutely fine? Does that happen to you?
Oh yeah, I've been washed more times than a car wash. You know. The fans are pickles.
Mm-hmm. Don't go to an event for 1 month. Everyone's like, nah, you're done. You need to go to an event for 1 whole month, dude.
The buzz fell off.
Leo wins everything. He'll win every single tournament, lose to a DDD, just washed up. Not top. He's not a top player anymore. How do you lose to DDD?
Yeah, and also, like, you know, PGR takes in 6 months worth, and most people don't even remember that Genesis 5 this year featured MBD in top 8. Like, people forget about that, you know?
Yeah.
And then, obviously, he goes quiet the rest of the season. That top 8, to many people, means almost nothing, which is, like, a disservice not only to him, but also, like, results in general and, you know, keeping track of them. So, cool that Melee kind of functions a little differently. I don't know if we'll get there, to be honest.
It's a little bit similar, to be honest, but the difference, I guess, on the Melee side is that you'll have that sort of counteracting voice where people are like, oh yeah, no, just because Crush hasn't been around in the past 2 months doesn't mean that he didn't have an amazing start to the year, or just because somebody made top 8 at Genesis and hasn't done as great for the rest of the year, that doesn't mean that he's washed now. So I guess on the Melee side, you kind of have that the counterbalancing viewpoint, whereas on the Smash 4 side, it's like the Reddit or the Twitter opinion is just the prevailing opinion.
That's a good one. The Reddit. There it is.
So do you think that's like a legacy thing because most of the Melee players, have more years of like experience and Smash 4 has existed? So even if someone's like doing bad for a bit, you can say, hey, look at all these 5+ years of results.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's Santi basically as one example of that. He doesn't really go to a lot of tournaments anymore, but he kind of like keeps going to enough to qualify for the rankings, and he just keeps getting like top 50. Just because he's good enough, everybody knows he's good enough. He goes to barely enough to qualify and does barely well enough. Whereas, like, if this was a new player that was having the same results as him, they probably wouldn't be on it. But because of that sort of legacy, where everybody's like, you know what, Santi's he's just so good. He's so good.
Yeah, they probably write him off.
They just keep him on there. They just, you know what, he's probably top 50. I can see him making top 32 at Evo if he pulls something off. I could see it, so I'm going to put him top 50.
Yeah,
I feel that.
We have a long way to go, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's not so exciting for top players who can always risk, the chance of getting upset in pools. But at the same time, the game's still young, even for 3.5 years. And now switching to Ultimate, we go from like the matchup base we had in this game to even more. So definitely a lot to sort of have up in the air, but we can transition now to the actual top 50. So unless anyone wanted to have a closing thought on that, you guys ready to go into 50 to 41?
No, I'm ready.
Let's roll.
I think I'm good, yeah.
Cool. All right. So for the uninitiated, the top 50 came out today for Season 5. We have, of course, the nice Red Bull feature, and so if you haven't checked it out already, go ahead and look at it. We have this list that was created from 54 tournaments. We had the first one being Umabura TAT, which of course happened in December of last year, but they let us know ahead of time during the off season that this was going to occur. Plus Japanese cultural differences, they don't celebrate Christmas, so they have tournaments in late December like it's nobody's business. But we're gonna go over what we thought, who we want to shout out, who we want to recognize for a moment, because I think it's important that we have some opinions from top players themselves, casters, etc. So anyone want to start with their first initial knee-jerk reaction to 50 through 41?
Thank God, since you finally got it.
Oh, here we go.
too many at once.
This is what we were waiting for.
Let's start with Dabuz. We'll go left to right. So Dabuz, initial knee-jerk reaction. That's it.
Just pure. There was only 1 or 2 people I expected to be in these spots. Period.
Those 2 people being
6WX and Sinji. Everyone else I was expecting either to be higher or just not on it.
Okay. So taking a look at 6WX really quick, he of course is now a 5-time PGR player.
Yeah.
We see 20th on the first one, 30th on the second, 31st on the third, 43rd on the last one, and now he ends at 47. So he does join 5-time PGR Fallen on the list, unless Fallen gets snubbed. But yeah, 6 didn't really go to anything aside from Genesis, where he got 33rd. But he did go to Glitch, Collision, Port Priority, and did pretty well there. And he did get a win on you, which counts for a lot these days, as well as Cosmos.
So one thing I noticed, which is very interesting, is that just how much points you get for B and C tiers, I guess. Because I was expecting, we had so many A tiers, I figured, just a few B and C tiers wouldn't really do much. I was expecting, 50, and I wouldn't have been surprised if he was Area 51. But okay. I thought he also had more A tiers than just 1, so I guess that's just a shock, in a good way, that those small events still matter. And I guess also Win and Cosmos and me, who are both at least top 15, I wouldn't be surprised if Cosmos is top 10, matters a lot when most people don't even have, top 20 wins.
Yeah, a lot of people have trouble sort of understanding the scale of each tier. I don't want to say it's like just exponential, but you know, C tiers are still, you know, solid wins, and if things happen at those events that are related to a top 10, top 5 player, then you know that'll end up really showing out in the end.
Yeah, I just want to point out that like in V4, a lot of people are still sort of in that V4 mindset, the PGR V4, because there was a lot of stuff going on there, and you know, when you look at the V4 TTS, you have like S tier, S tier, S tier, S plus tier.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Oh, that was horrible.
So basically, like, everybody's looking at B tiers and C tiers like they're the same as in V4, where you had like 20 tournaments larger than the biggest B tier. And now in V5, the scale's a lot smaller. So if you sort of rephrase it and think, okay, so last year's S tiers are this year's A tiers, last year's A tiers are this year's B tiers. When you think of it like that, then a win at a B tier at like one of 6 WXs, that's basically a win at an A tier now. If you're looking at it from that perspective. And so when you look at it like that, it's a lot less surprising.
Yeah, with the sort of absence of a ongoing circuit like the 2GC, with less attention in the game overall, just because of the natural decline of an esport, you know, which is normal without patches, dev support. We know the grind. There was less tournaments this season, so 54 tournaments, and there was only 9 of them that were A+/A. So that's something to keep in mind. You did mention Sinji. Anyone have any comments on Sinji? That's the first time a Pac-Man main makes it to the PGR. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's go, my man.
I just think that speaks to the character.
I don't think that's it.
I mean, if you play Sinji, it's actually disgusting. Some of the things he has are like
frustrating thing ever.
he has like these guaranteed, like, you're shielding one of his projectiles, nope, you're getting shield poked for 20 plus damage, he's getting a new fruit, putting out another Hydra out, and you're like, what just happened? He just did like 5 different attacks in 1 second, and I guess I lose now.
To be fair, it's frustrating for both you and him because he also has to deal with playing that yellow ball that does not work. But he made it work, so I'm really happy he got in.
There are some matchups that you. The thing with Sinji, I think the biggest thing. Well, first I want to say that in this aspect of the 41 through 50, I think the X Factor. This literally tells the story for a lot of people in this, and this is where my reaction came from, is the X Factor reaction. But for Sinji specifically, for Sinji specifically, his is very matchup dependent. A lot of the matchups that he wins are the ones that he practices a lot with. So like the notable wins he had, like he beat Dabuz, but a lot of people don't. Many people don't know that Dabuz and Sinji play a lot. Like if you look at like some of the tournaments that they have, they actually play quite a bit. So a win on him wouldn't be too. What is it?
He actually plays Utopian Ray a lot.
Is it Utopian Ray, not you?
Yeah, he has a lot of stuff to Utopian Ray.
Okay, yeah. He plays a lot of the matchups that he actually will win are the matchups that he's actually practicing. But then you get to the tournaments like at Genesis where he he lost to Bayo, and a lot of the times where he would just lose to Bayo or like Clouds or like the matchup that he's less comfortable in, you kind of just write him off at that point. But I wasn't really surprised to see Sinji. As you can see, the X Factor, they're just like, yeah, he's supposed to be on there.
And you know that Komarakiri win is fresh on everybody's mind.
Oh,
I mean, against Cloud, no less. I mean,
against Cloud, you couldn't even. I would not bet against that. I would be like, oh yeah, Cloud's got that.
That matchup is depressing. Oh my god.
Fun fact,
you tell me.
Yeah, Sidebet Discord was definitely in shambles after that.
Fun fact, he got mollywopped by Dyer's Pocket Cloud about 2 hours before
okay, we just kind of like,
This is a day to celebrate Dom. This is a day to celebrate.
I'm just using that as a point, saying it's funny, like, going off of what Zinoto said. If it's a matchup that he's not comfortable in, write it off. But on the other end of that, so many different things can happen between player to player.
Yeah. But I'm not surprised at all that he's on there, because anybody who's played Sinji will know that he makes that character, like, you normally would think, like, oh, low tier, I got this for free, and then you play him, and you're just like, wait, I thought I was supposed to be winning.
Dude, 3.5 years of a low tier, I fear that man. I don't fear the man with you know, 1,000 kicks that he practiced like 1,000 times. I fear the kick he practiced, like the single kick he practiced 1,000 times, and that's Sinji with his Pac-Man. Like,
I agree.
That's
one option.
But the other people, which are the one that kind of shocked me, which probably shocked everybody, is Kirihara being at 50. I mean, you can't really help it in a sense because of, you know, he has not even showed up in America this season.
Not any. Like, and his player card got edited to be, you know, just Japan, so you don't get a bunch of blanks. So you got Umagura TAT, Takagi, and Umagura 32.
Yeah, but you know, you anybody who's seen him, you don't even have to play him. You've seen him play. Like, you know, he's great. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
I almost didn't really expect him to be on there at all, just because like his like he hasn't really played anyone. Like, you know, you can't really rank someone who hasn't played anyone. But like it kind of looked, the PGR would just look kind of off without him being in there. Like, you know, playing somebody like him and just like he's not PGR, you know.
Yeah, and but the beauty of having like all that data is at least like the X Factor shows it, you know. He's obviously like in that top 30 and at any given moment, but like we have to do right by the data, and if he hasn't been here, how do we, you know, how do you grapple
how do you rank it?
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
He was definitely the first knee jerk. I was just like, wow, like, you know, like he's better than I just straight up say he's better than me. Like, you know,
I got to 50 and I was like
top 20 easily.
Oh yeah, I was
like the rest better be good after this when I saw 50.
Yeah. But that's the first, you know, like Y X Factor, like plus 18, and then you go down and you see another one of Ned. Ned is the kind of player where I feel like he is. If you've played Ned, if you played him a bunch, he's probably either positive or really close to even with you. Like, he's really good at people he plays a lot. But when you put him outside of his element where he has to play people that he normally doesn't play against, that's where it gets like, you know, Ned will start just losing. Like, he lost to Rags this season, I remember that. He's had a lot at the B and C tiers he's gone to. He's lost to like Sinibu and a lot of players that he just normally doesn't play against. Like, for a player at 42 or something like that, you'd expect him to be able to, you know, you should probably be beating these people, but those are the people he usually would lose to.
Yeah.
Whereas then you put him against people like Larry or somebody that he's played a lot, and he can go, like, you know, that'll be a 50-50.
Yeah, and can we talk about his player card? I mean, did you guys see that picture? SSJ Red, like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was a good one.
Yeah,
I think that sums up his personality too.
That's Javi from 2GG, so shout outs to Javi. Very gracious in lending that. All the photo credits are at the bottom. But yeah, Ned, I mean, he wasn't on last season, took a bit of an absence, but he was on the third and the second iteration. And he was the PGRV2's 50th player, so it's always funny to see the last player. I'd say it'd be funny to see the first player, but it was 0 for 4 seasons. But he was definitely that thumbnail for everybody when they thought of every PGR, especially the second one.
Yeah, I definitely think that C-tier win that he got, that probably did more for him than just about anything else.
Didn't he beat Samsora there?
Yeah, I think he beat him twice, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's a crazy good one.
And Lucas.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
No, it's not on here, but me and Ned, we also, cause like Ned, I didn't play Ned that tournament, and I was like, just like, I was trash talking. I was like, "You're lucky you didn't play me." And he was like, "Okay, we'll sit down here and play me right now. We'll play for like the title." He beat me, so. I mean, like,
actually won for him. What do you know?
If there's an unofficial win on down there, that could be there too. So whatever.
Damn.
Well, what about you, Dom? I know you were in the fold, but were you surprised by anybody now that it's public?
Oh, I'm never surprised anymore because I accepted after Pound 2016 that literally anything can happen in this game.
You got it.
Fair.
So, I think Ned and Kirihara, Shiki, like all those guys making it in this area, kind of like.
Yeah, we need to talk about Shiki.
I like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I wanted to bring him up.
That's a big
coming
one.
off the stark contrast that season 4 was, where it was just A, S, A+. Like, here you go. If you don't go, you didn't show up to anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is talk about the, you know, whether it's in Melee with like SoCal bias or West Coast bias, or it's in Smash with like also SoCal bias back when like 2GGC was his thing. People just like went to 2GGCs and got on the PGR, which that's your opinion. I guess you could just go to a tournament and get on, but we clearly didn't see that for many people. But in Japan, when you get wins like Abadango, Choco, Komarakiri, Raito, just to name as like the big ones, on top of that like Kome and all these other like B tier Japanese players that would probably floss North America's top 20, it's like daunting that they don't even travel here and they get those results over there, you know?
Yeah. And he had an X Factor minus 19. I feel like
the wrong way.
No one paid attention to him. I feel like because I looked at him on X Factor and I was like, wait, he has to wear all these players. What the heck is happening in Japan, and why is he looking like a top 25 player? It was absurd. And like I've seen him play a little bit. I'm just like.
It really comes down to the fact that when it comes to the community's understanding of non-North American players, if it's not on a stream that regularly premieres at a time that they're at home, then they're not watching, they're not going to know. We got a lot of Japanese players get introduced to us for the first time through 2GG, through Frostbite, and if you don't know what an Umebura, Karisuma, Sumabado, Takagi is, then it's really hard to form a very valid opinion on the PGR because those are their monthlies, those are their death pools that that level of competition doesn't exist over here, you know?
It's wild. This one was like, he's at minus 19. So that means that players anticipated that he'd be around 60. So that is the wrong way, right? He needs to be on the 20-ish half, not the 60th. So this is one where the X Factor did not, it reflected that he was in the wrong spot, obviously, but he was in the wrong spot on the wrong spectrum.
It reflected that he wasn't at Genesis, Frostbite, Switchfest, Smash and Splash. That's what it really reflected, because Evo Japan happened in a time zone 12 hours apart from us, and unless you were watching it, you didn't really know how sick he was, let alone keep track of his results. So
that's the unfortunate part about the Japanese players, is that because their tournaments are 13 hours behind us, or the other time, the other half of the day,
opposite side of the world.
A lot of people won't actually see these people play. So the Japanese players are usually criminally underrated. Mostly because a lot of players won't even watch their tournaments. They do upload their sets, and they upload them pretty fast too. But most players aren't going to go back and watch these kind of tournaments. He is really good though, and this was really frustrating to see him all the way down here with a minus 19 X Factor. I was very upset at that.
Yeah,
the minus 19 part.
We even saw Anti tweet out that Shaki plays like Mars, and he's really disappointed in the X Factor rating him so low. And actually, Shaki's headed to Evo in a couple weeks. So if you run into him and you get blown up, you know why now.
Yeah, he's gonna blow up a lot of people. Yeah, he's gonna tag minus 19 or something like that.
Honestly, he'll probably get top. I can see him getting top 8 if he has the right bracket without all the clouds and.
And he'll be a surprise for everybody. He'll be a surprise.
Yeah, I think top 16, 100%.
I just want to point something out, and that to me is like the main difference between like the Melee panelists versus the Smash 4 X Factor, where it's like as you go down the list, and as you can see by their X Factors, I have zero trust in, no offense, but I have zero trust in the Smash 4 community to properly rate Kirihara versus Shiki versus Ned. Whereas if you look at the Melee list, I have a 100% confidence that they will put over Triforce, Spark, Cal, Kage in the right order. And
that's fair.
Like, I know zero results for any of those players, but I have 100% trust that the guys who know will put them in the right order. Actually, I know a few results for some of them. If there's anybody in Melee community watching this, that was hyperbole. But basically, I have 0% confidence that the Smash 4 community could put out a list better than the algorithm. Whereas on the Melee side, I know that they can put out a list. I know that the Melee can put out a list and Smash 4 can't.
You guys get one documentary and now you're
So I think it depends who you ask in the Smash 4
I can see it now, all the retweets on this clip, and
But there's also Japan bias, because for the longest time people would almost overrate a lot of Japanese players because they showed up at 2GC.
That's definitely true at the beginning of Smash 4, especially.
We'll do it now.
It's gonna be wild.
Japanese bias isn't going anywhere. It doesn't matter what game you play.
Maybe next time we just got to get all the top players.
Wait, unless it's Marvel.
We got to get Anti a ballot. We got to get Dabuz, Zinoto a ballot. We got to get all the top players to do ballots, because I trust them far more than most people to be able to properly rate people across different continents. At the very least.
Isn't that what we did before? Like for PGR 2, 3, 4? I believe it was just like the top people got ballots, and like the people very informed.
Yeah, it didn't. Even if they were, then I have less faith now.
The way the X Factor process was hey, can you do this please? We're trying to get this going, and then you would respond. I'd get left unseen by like 40 other top players.
Yeah, exactly.
But then once they started to see the PGR come out, once they started to see the PGRs come out, and it was like, oh, this is real. This isn't just like a Smashboards ranking. Then they were like, hey, where's the X Factor? And then now in the PGstats Discord, shout out to the PGstats Discord, we have just bands of people, commentators, TOs, analysts, statisticians who like pay attention, like Bonard's Loop, Stewart98, Cloudhead, who like rate their own ballot. And so we just like, here's the link if you guys want to fill it out. We got like 47 respondents, and then if you're a top player, you're always welcome. You know, we even opened the public one, and how many did that get, TAS? Like
400, I think. I think the public one got 400 responses.
Yeah.
After 19.
After troll votes, I think it ended up getting cut down to like 200 or something. I was, well, not like troll votes. There were just like sort of really questionable. But there was like the obvious troll ones where like you rate everybody as a 10 except for like Lima because you really hate Lima, and you rate him a 0.
People do that?
There were a few like
that. Yep. There was actually people doing that. It was kind of
that is wild.
There were a few like that, but like
we cleaned
a lot of the ones that we cut out, we cleaned those out. Yeah, those are not included. I was a little bit overzealous on the cutting of things, so that's why we ended up with like 200 at the end. But there was a couple like, if we looked at the actual top 10 list, and then like X Factor and below, and if you rated anybody on the X Factor and below better than anybody on the actual top 10, then we would just kill your ballot. We were like, I don't trust you to rate the rest of them properly if you're putting like, I don't know, Gluttony above. Like
what though?
Like tweet,
like Void.
X Factor.
I mean, to be fair, it's opinions. You know, you can have opinions.
But like there are wrong opinions.
Yeah, imagine you exist. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I mean, I guess if it's too wild, I would agree that you.
So
probably just not.
So, but would you say something, for example, like putting Akirihara as an 8 out of 10, while you put like Void and Mr. R as like a 7 out of 10? Let's just say as an example. Would you say it's really like a bad opinion? You know, obviously Akirihara is like 50. You would?
Yeah, that is like the most borderline because like Kirihara is actually on the top 50. So I was looking at that like, okay, he made top 50. He's actually there, so like it's reasonable to put him where you want to put him. But like specifically the people that failed to make it, if you're putting them above top 10 players, then I don't trust your ballot at all. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. Never mind. Anyways, you talk about like that kind of stuff.
I also have a question. We're not mentioning. Are we mentioning the Area 51 players at all, or no?
Yeah, that would probably go in the snub section, but like we can talk about them now too.
Well,
we can wait.
Snub.
I feel like they feel that it's a snub to be put in Area 51, so we'll talk about them in the snub section.
Yeah. So last but not least, Mask. Any surprises, knee jerk? Anything you wanted to say before we jump into predictions?
Well, we pretty much touched on it. I mean, Shaki was gonna be the one for me. I mean, to be honest. I guess I wasn't paying attention enough because I was like, who's this hype beast with the Supreme shirt at 41 with wins on all these Abadango, Anti, Choco, you know, Komori-Kiri, Raito. Those are insane wins, and I know some people could argue, you know, wins within your region are like more or less like a foregone conclusion at some point if you're good. But I mean, getting a win on Anti, I mean, is also nothing to sneeze at, as we all know, even with like the more recent results. So I mean, I was very surprised to see him here. Looking back, I mean, nothing else is too surprising other than what another thing we touched on for me is how low Kirihara is. But when you don't play that many people, I mean, it's hard to push you much further up the list at that point.
Yeah, and that shirt is hot. I will say that. That's an awesome shirt.
Yeah, I need that shirt.
Oh.
Actually, last thing before we move on, I just remembered. Every time we do a new X Factor survey, we actually add the line, the best player is a 10 and the worst player is a 1, to somewhere new in the little blurb. Because every time there are people that forget, and they'll rate Tweak MKLeo as a 1, and they'll rate like randoms as 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I feel it.
Mm-hmm. And I think we finally figured out that you just have to put it first in like bold.
Literally the title.
Literally the title has to be the best players are a 10. and then finally after that, people stop screwing it up.
The best players
Nice.
are 10 factor. That's what it boils down to. But yeah, pretty much X factor. That's why, you know, because initially people wanted like a blend of X factor and algorithm, only X factor to count as the ranking. But we see now that like we need to save the community against itself. Like, that's what it boils down to. But jokes aside.
Can we talk about Meester, by the way? I'm sorry. We need to talk about the fact that we have a Game Watch in the top 50 who was like the best Game Watch by far, in my opinion. We haven't even mentioned him. Wins on Fatality, Mars, and Mistake with Game & Watch. Top 16 at Genesis, top 17 at Hyrule Saga. Like, those are crazy results.
Is good.
And he had a positive X factor. Positive X factor. I didn't think people knew about him.
He would have been top 30 if Combo Breaker counted, right, guys?
I have opinions on this, but I think.
I mean, would he not be?
I'm gonna let this one go. You guys kind of.
I'm glad he got on the list though, because we would have gotten flamed hard if he didn't.
He picked Game & Watch. I am under the firm belief Game & Watch is a character. Game & Watch is such a linearly designed character, and like. I'm not saying that like
line,
you want.
Yeah.
I mean, the playstyle is super linear, but like I'm not gonna say that he doesn't deserve to be on this list because he 100% does. Like these wins would put anybody on the list, but
I mean,
okay, these wins would put a player of his caliber, any player.
So
of his caliber
you're not saying that he's fraudulent. You're saying that it's fraudulent that other people were losing to him.
No. What I'm
so
saying,
they're fraudulent.
I think he got a very fortunate. His wins are very fortunate because a lot of the characters, especially like things like Falcon and Zero Suit and even Bayo, these characters are tall, right? And they have really high up hitboxes that when they start to try and like hit Game & Watch, duck and dash away, literally bodies like most of their moveset. So like, the wins are very, very fortunate.
You're asking me. Hold on. Once time out. You're asking me to feel bad for Captain Falcon, Zero Suit, and Bayonetta?
No.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
He's making a very valid point here as a veteran competitor. Let him go.
He's very. I definitely think he deserves to be on here, but like, I think this is. I'm curious to see how the next season is going to progress, or the season we're in is going to progress, because I'm very curious if he plays people. He went to Combo Breaker and did not play a Diddy Kong, right? There were 3 Diddy Kongs at the tournament. He didn't play a single one, and like he's getting very fortunate. Like he played ESAM and Bayo, and he won.
Damn, you're saying ESAM's free to Game & Watch?
No, I mean,
there is every season the great phantasm of bracket luck. So I mean, you know, if it happened to choose Meister this time, I mean, it chose the Buzz of Civil War. So I mean, we're just
you got it.
That was a low blow, Swire. That was a low blow.
I'm just saying.
Bracket look anyway.
I definitely am curious to see how this season progresses with him, because like he's in a spot where he could just drop off completely, or he could he could go up.
I'm just waiting for Meister to fight you next season, and if you lose,
I am waiting.
This clip is all over the place.
Can I talk about that too? Because like the funny thing is, he made a tier list, right? Or not tier, a matchup chart, and he had like Diddy as even or winning, and I was like, what in the world? What Diddy's have you played?
Are you both going to Evo? Are you both going to Evo?
I'm not going to Evo, no.
Oh, man. That would have been a good salty sweet.
I cannot win because he is if I lose to him, I'm just going to give it to him. Like, you know what? I'll just bow down there. But, like, no, I am not getting clapped by a Game & Watch. That matchup is like 60-40 all the day.
Boy.
No.
Like, he's linear, but
this is dangerous talk.
Boy, you lost to Bowser, though.
This is not a roundtable. This is a throwdown now. But let's move on. Let's move on.
That's why I said I didn't want to throw that one out there.
I'm just gonna close this out. I just want to say, in the Melee community, one phrase I kind of hear thrown around occasionally is like a certain win or a certain placement is quote unquote the top of their skill range. And so to me, what that is exactly what I'm hearing here. Where Zinoto feels that Meister deserves his placement, but he feels that it's entirely possible that top 50 on the PGR is the top of his range. And so
at the moment,
at the current moment, he can improve.
But Game & Watch meta is evolving.
The top 50 is the best place that he could have gotten.
Yeah.
So
That's
I'm
what
curious to
sounds-
see if that changes for whatever happens in the future.
Is there a reverse concept of that where sometimes people think like top 50 is the lowest someone could have gotten? Of like the worst bracket to look at.
Oh
Yeah, there's like he underperformed, but that's the worst that we could have probably expected from him.
Yeah, your
100%.
worst Dabuz is like what people dream of as their best. It's like pretty much what that means. But moving right along here, we're gonna jump into now the thoughts on the rest of the list, what it's looking like. You know, we obviously had great deal of talent shown in 41 through 50. People who have been on the PGR, people who haven't, like Meister and Sinji. But who would you feel comfortable being in 31 through 40? Just that makes sense. You look at it, doesn't bug you. You move on with your day. You don't flame me and DM me with why is it blank and blank on 31 through 40. Who's your comfort pick, Mask? Or I'll give you a second if you want.
I actually do have one from. So I was actually looking at some of like Rags's wins.
I know it.
Yeah, definely.
I think
From
it's
before.
everybody.
So just looking at if I look at Smash and Splash, just the run that he had. I mean, ultimately losing to Elegant, he 3-2'd Cosmos, he 3-2'd Ally, he 3-2'd Raito, he 3-1'd Great Gonzalez, and then like, you know, as we go lower, like I guess the wins start being like less. But I mean, I actually just think many of those wins in one tournament, like that's some people's win cards. So like we're looking at right now. So I mean, I think it would be impossible for him to not be in this next range.
Big brain.
Just
big brain.
Just
At
off of
least,
that.
right? At the very,
Yeah.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
didn't he have the record for the shortest amount of stream time for Smash and Splash top 8? Was that him?
That was so funny. I don't care what anyone says. That stuff is comedy.
It was Elegant, right?
God.
Was it?
Yeah,
the
Panda versus Elegant.
first time around the block with Elegant is not a good time.
Ooh.
Especially as MK.
If you
Yeah.
haven't seen
Yeah,
it,
that was.
I think 2/3 of the round or the entire set, 3 out of 5 was a Twitch clip. Like not trying to be a certain way, but it was that fast. Elegant is gross.
No.
That
I went
one
to
hurt.
like
That
a
one
glass
hurt.
of water or something, and one of the games was just over, and I was like, "What? Dang!" And then I refreshed the page, like because like I would refresh the Twitch, the video stream, and it was like he already lost his first stock on the next, and I was like, "Dude, what's happening?" I thought like my screen was messing up or something. It was so nasty.
I mean, there's a lot to be said, and I'm sure both of you have like sort of experienced this, like tournament jitters, like for some of these younger up-and-comer players, like it's still a matchup for so many of them. I mean, if you're top 8 at Evo, Grand Stage, like you've been there, you've seen it before, or top 8 Genesis, whatever, like you understand that. But for some people, it's like, whoa, this is the first time, and I made it. A couple wins on my bracket on winner's side, and there was an upset somewhere else, and all of a sudden I'm in top 8. Like it could take a toll. For sure.
That's fair. I definitely don't. I think that's maybe part of it, but like, Rats also as CEO, he lost to Zurich, and then he lost to what's that Luigi from? Jarrett.
Zurich. All right, no, both of them are from South Florida, and those players are sick. All right.
Yeah. I'm not saying this is bad or anything, but I'm saying like Rats. I think it wasn't necessarily jitters, but this is the Luigi. Like he also lost to Jarrett, which I'm pretty sure is a Luigi player from that area too.
Gerard KB, yeah.
Gerard. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But
yeah, no. So
on his name.
yeah, they definitely like the nerves definitely come from getting Twitch clipped 5 times in a row or whatever. But like it's definitely a matchup thing for him. I think Luigi was just like the unfortunate thing he just happened to run into.
Yeah.
But he also beat Cosmos the month. He beat him at the tournament before. What was the glitch? I think it was glitch, where he beat Cosmos also, and then he beat him again at Smash and Splash. So he definitely has the wins to be up there. He's definitely my comfort pick.
Okay.
And
Also your pick, Rags Zinoto? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not my personal pick. But if I had to like say, is this me comfortably? Like, yeah, I would. Throw
Okay,
him
so
in
you
there.
agree with Mask. Okay, Dom, do you have a pick? Assuming you don't know what's happening.
Oh, that's cheating. Hold on. Let me open up the whole list. If I had to pick a player off the top of my head,
Who would you be happiest for?
happiest?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's too many. I'm gonna throw it back to Tyrell Nakat Coleman, my favorite player. If he somehow ended up
finessed his
squarely
way
on
on?
that list going forward, I wouldn't look at the rest of it as a spectator. I'd be perfectly fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Naruto, also known as Tyrell.
I mean, would you say that is it likely though? Like I mean, like even though you would prefer it, is this a likely scenario?
Oh no.
Okay.
Just straight up no.
Oh my god!
I've seen too much. Like
Dream pick my friend Tommy. He didn't compete at anything, but it would have been really awesome if he
It would have been cool. Yeah.
All right, Zinoto, who's your comfort pick?
Okay.
Who's your
He did beat
comfort?
him. Okay. Out of all the players, my comfort pick would have probably been Captain L or MVD. Captain L, I think, should be higher though. But like, if I had to drop him in a location, I think comfortably it'd be in the high 30s, like 30, 31. Oh, is that the low 30s? You know, 30, 31-ish.
I can agree.
But I definitely think he probably is. In my opinion, he should be like near the high 20, like the top of the 20s, like 29, 28 somewhere. But I think Captain L would be my comfort pick, and MVD secondly. MVD is one of those players that like, he's always a solid pick. Like, you know, if I had to look at him to not be PG, I would be like, if somebody said no, MVD is not gonna be on the PG, I'd be like, okay, well, you're crazy, like, you know. But I think he's definitely a solid pick to always be there. And I haven't seen, since we didn't see him in this ranking, either he's going to be 40 or like right around that, you know, the high 30s. I keep switching this. 39, 38, like that area.
I get you. Yeah, MVD, I mean, yeah, he's one of those players that people, you know, love to root for, love to hate, just because of how, you know, the brackets come out or how his sets play out. And it seems like every set he's almost had this major victory, something just goes horribly wrong. And it's like
monkey flips high.
Yeah.
we're talking about Captain L, right?
No, this is the monkey flipping Captain L. Let's go.
Oh, thank God. I thought we were on the completely different person. Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned both of them, to be fair, so it's a fair assumption to make. But no, we're talking about MVD. A lot of people, like, he started off kind of strong, I guess, because he did get Genesis. He got 5th at Genesis,
which is a big deal. Hello, that's a big deal.
But then it's not about sole placement. You know, like, I mean, like, you do get points for placing high, but he didn't take. He was the one that got the up, like the DQ bracket, because Tweak was in his bracket path. Nairo also lost early. He lost to Legit. MVD did beat Legit, but Nairo ended up playing MVD and lose the bracket, ended up beating him. So like and then he had to play. I think the only PGR player he played in that entire tournament where he beat was K9. So like, it wasn't like, you know. I mean, he did get like it is a 5th place. You know, he didn't. Even though he got the upset bracket, he could have just as easily gotten upset himself. Like, you know, or he could have just lost to the people who made the upset. So you can't discredit him for getting it.
This reminds me
you
of...
can't discredit him from doing it.
Dabuz?
I'm sorry.
This reminds me of, I think it was one of the seasons, False got like a top 30 on one of the PGRs. And I remember a lot of people were like discrediting him, saying that he got a relatively, I think it was False, that he got like a relatively easy bracket at one of the CEOs and got like top 8 there because everyone else bracket got like super upset. And it's like, you can't discredit someone because of that, though, because, you know, if you don't get upset and everyone else is, you're still beating the people that upset everyone else. And at the end of the day, even if it's not a PGR win, beating people who get PGR wins is just as hard, if not harder, because that means they're on some next level stuff. And I hate when they're like doing really well and causing upsets, because I'm like, God dang it, I can't even study for this kind of nonsense, because they're activating Super Saiyan level, like whatever. And that's unrecorded footage.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, I think we've struck a good balance now where, like, it's not the placement. Like, getting 3rd, 4th, 5th, that's not what we see. It's who you outplace. So if you're at an event where you outplaced Nairo, you outplaced MK Leo, like, that's a big deal. Like, either they literally drowned in pools because of some act of God, or they barely make it to top 16 and get, like, 17th or something. So, like, placements in themselves don't have meaning without context. And I'm glad it took us 5 seasons to see that.
Hey, we've been doing that for at least since V4.
I know, but like for the common person, it's like, you know, they get 3rd at something, and they think it's like automatically grounds for blank placement. So.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I'm top 15 now.
Yeah.
That's why I always value consistency over, like, even the season that I like got 2nd as CEO. Everybody's like, okay, like Zinoto's like a fantastic top 10 player. I'm like, okay, like literally. Look at how a player progresses, right? You do not look at one tournament is just a snapshot of that player. Like, you have to look at like their entire career. And that's why I think I 100% value that.
Mask?
I'm actually glad you brought up consistency versus like breakouts, because it brings me to a player that we haven't actually spoken about at all, which is Su. Because if we think of how we first, maybe most in the U.S. were introduced to him, was the insane. Now I remember people were like, I was in a room with people and people were like running around the room like, what is going on?
I was there. It was crazy.
I may have been one of those people.
I'm mad I missed it in person.
Yeah.
But I mean, for him coming in at 46, we see that he was another one of those players that was mostly in Japan for this last season. Notable wins here, we have Ken, Larry Lur, Raito, and Shuton.
People wish they had that.
Yeah, which is actually crazy when I look at this and I still see how low, but again, we only really have Evo Japan 13th. I can't even read this. What is this? Game Party Japan 4th, and then one of the Umaburas for 7th. I mean, I just want to say, when we first saw him, I mean, I actually thought this was going to be a part of like the Smash 4 lore forever. I was like, this is the new god, like the way he was fighting Zero. But I mean, and then to see him, I guess, go down 12 spots, it's kind of interesting.
Lucario's garbage.
Yeah, he's garbage until he's at kill percent. Then you're garbage.
Then you're garbage.
But in this game, you're dead before you even at Lucario rage percents half the time.
That is true. Fair point.
Crazy.
Yeah, and Dabuz, comfort pick?
I actually have a few different picks of like players I feel like are really good and had some crazy good performances and did in the past, but didn't attend that much. And this season, I think like there's 4 players who will probably be in this 40-31 despite not attending much, like Wrath, James, Niotono, and Ken. Yeah, Shoei, James, Ken, Wrath, and Niotono, because they're all players like that have been on PGR before, have like, good placements on PGR, but then like they didn't exist this season except for one event where they took top 8 and like bodied people. Like James got top 8 at Smash and Splash. Wrath got top 8.
Oh, that was top 8.
Oh yeah, 2.
I thought he got 9th. He got 7th, not 9th, because you beat him right after. I remember that.
Yeah, and then Wrath got top 8 at Momocon.
Yeah.
Niotono like just sometimes bodies Japan. Like and he goes like so many events. Yeah. And then Ken, we know Ken. He'll just win an event and then not go to an event for 2 months this season, but then win another event and it's like,
yeah, Ken has a job.
What?
Ken's an adult, so
he got caught by the Japanitis. We actually have to like work because
Japanitis.
I was like watching a video and like Japan's hit by that crazy. A lot of people did this season. Japanitis is a real thing.
That's so fair. I mean, Renai got hit by for real because he's just. Sorry, we're gonna get him back.
Smash Ultimate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna go personally out there and get him.
So I think those were all very fair picks. They're all names we know or names that are extremely relevant because of social media. But now we have to talk about snubs. So looking at, last season, Area 51, who did we have? I don't even remember. I think we had...
Area 51?
Yeah, does everyone remember?
There was Kome, Karna...
Locust was in there, no.
No, last season.
Previous.
Yeah, last season.
Eon, Javi, Locust, Latai, and Stroder.
Yeah, let's high, yeah. So, Area 51, for anyone that doesn't know, the top 50 is all done through empirical data, and then 51 through 55 is just turned into a solid platform of just like sameness, just so no one's over anybody. Because the results by that point in our test, you can't really definitively, or at least we don't feel comfortable confidently saying 52nd over 53rd. So we do have this season's Area 51. If you haven't seen it already, it features the likes of Chag from Mexico, Eam from Japan, Karna from Texas, Kome from Japan, and Manny from Florida. Initial thoughts with these people, you think they should have been on before, or maybe they didn't even belong on Area 51?
I would say Manny is sometimes arguable, but he doesn't go to enough,
Yeah.
I feel like Manny is somewhat of a snub, arguably.
Well, he's weird, because he'll, randomly lose, in matchups he shouldn't. I remember after he beat me last season at, whatever Florida's from was, he got,
Too hot to handle. That was a pop-up.
Yeah, he was playing off. Yep, but then the next event, he got 49th or something, losing to a Mario. I think maybe it was Zenu, but then again, Sonic Mario is what you would say. And it's like,
wait.
it's like he's really
He lost
good
to
at
Master
sometimes. Oh, Master Mar, that's what it was. So it's like,
there you go.
So it's like you can't, like, it's understandable you're not gonna be a PGR if like you're so inconsistent, and like you have more like lows generally than highs.
And inactivity.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
I honestly do not. I think because you guys put Manny as the snub, I was actually surprised that he actually made it into the into the Area 51. Because I mean, Manny, don't get me wrong, Manny is one of those players that everyone knows he's good. Like he helps out everybody, preaches Sonic, like, and how he just does everything for the community. We all know he's a good player. But he actually didn't perform like the kind of player I thought he was this season. Because even at the C tier that we were at, the one in Texas, he lost to I forgot the Texas player, the Bayo, Shadow PR. And then at CEO, he also didn't do too well. He got 33rd. Like, he wasn't playing like as phenomenally as like, you know, somebody like he normally would. So yeah, I honestly was surprised that I even saw him in there at all. You know, I'm not saying that he doesn't belong there, but it was just like kind of a shock to me.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I was actually surprised Karna got just Area 51. I thought he had a pretty solid season overall.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Karna's like fantastic. I was also surprised.
He got weighed down by double 65th at the biggest event of the season.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
That's the thing, though. Just a quick aside, like when people think of these 41 through 50ers / Area 51ers, like, yeah, they have an upset on Dabuz, right? Or they have an upset on Leo, but they also like have all these awful losses regularly that they get that like
that people don't think about.
Yeah, that really, like, they're not just the Dabuz win or MK Leo win. They're also the losses that constitute their entire season. And so, you know, when you have someone, you know, in the top 10, yeah, all their wins are crazy and their losses like weigh them down.
Crazier.
Even crazier.
Yeah, and they weigh them down even then. So like, it's just something to keep in mind. Like, Karna, phenomenal player, great Texas Chic, but like, you know, it's just like
he lost to Shadow PR too. Wow.
Yeah, those losses at that point, like it's not enough almost to say, unfortunately.
That's the PGR killer, man.
Yeah.
On that note,
he lost to C4.
I feel like we need to bring this up, and it was going to come up eventually, so I might as well just throw it in there now.
Oh God.
Possibly the #1 upset of the season, which was Zaki over Leo. So I have a question for you guys. Off the cuff, is Zaki top 40 or is he a snub?
Snub. Free.
Yikes.
It's D.
Yikes.
He got.
I don't
know. Whoa, time out. Zinoto.
Yeah.
You first.
Snub. What do you?
I might just go. Oh, okay. No. I feel like this is like, it's kind of like, you know, when there's some players that you just cannot like say root against or say negative things towards. Like, it's
not just being honest.
Yeah, but he's like a people's champ. Like,
I definitely 20 minutes ago.
Wait, what?
You were bashing Game Loss 20 minutes ago.
Okay, that's not a people's champ character.
No.
Whatever.
He's like Raito in the same sense, you know. Like, people go ape for that, you know.
But Leo, imagine beating, like, Leo's arguably the #1 player this season, right? Like, I mean, he's either probably Leo or Tweak. Like, you can like, that's the like the running thing. Like, say we go with that assumption, beating the #1 player in this season and not being on the PGR just sounds absolutely wild to say. Like, you know, like saying he's just gonna, like, he's not on there. Like, it's just like, what, you know? But then, like, you look at it and, like, that's a feasible thing. That's why I said yikes, because, like, that's actually a feasible thing to happen. I honestly don't know what last time. You know,
we've seen it happen before, where people beat the best player at the time and don't make it. Prince Ramen,
Latai. I mean, I think honestly, like, the Latai over Zero at the biggest event that year, right? Compared to Zaki over Leo at one of the top 5 events this year. What was it, a Hyrule Saga?
It was second biggest, I think. No, I think Hyrule Saga was the biggest, right?
No, what was Zaki? Where was that
upset?
upset?
Was the tournament.
Yeah, Hyrule Saga.
Oh, okay, so this season's also biggest tournament, but also, you know, comparing Civil War to Hyrule Saga, like, even then that wasn't enough for Latai. Like, it wasn't enough gas in the tank, so we'll see.
True.
I mean,
but he also beat Rags, right? But then, like, Rags is a PGR this season technically, but how do you count that?
Well, then Rags also beat him at the next event, so like that, I know obviously it's still a win, it still counts for points, but it cancels each other out a little bit when, like, you beat someone and lose to him the next time.
That is correct. That is
But
correct.
even
They
then,
will
if your
cancel
best
out.
win is Leo and your second best is Rags, like that's a lot of work in the middle.
Yeah,
True.
and then like if at that point you would say like wouldn't he be on the like if you was to be on the PGR, you'd probably throw him somewhere near the end of it, and I've already seen the end of it, and he's not there. So would I anticipate him being any deeper than that? Yeah, I guess I agree with the buzz. He's probably a snub.
Okay. Fair.
Mask, do you agree?
I think it would be a snub, but this might just be like my own ignorance. But I was like thinking, I don't even know. Would that be a snub? Because I don't know what other results he even has. Or,
Not great ones, to be honest.
He kind of drowned at
CEO.
What needed to actually happen was CEO for the same thing to just be replicated. Without CEO following up something like Hyrule Saga, then it's like, unfortunately, you kind of need more than one instance for there to be a trend, so it can be kind of shelved away as a fluke. No disrespect, but that's how not how we have to look at it, but that's how I interpret it, you know?
Well, that's fair.
He definitely got like 129th at CEO or something.
Yeah,
like just drowning pools.
It was very, very bad.
What if actually he didn't even attend like CEO? Like, what if he actually didn't have the 129, just didn't attend period? That might have helped him and might have put him into Area 51.
I actually got this question, and I haven't ever deliberately tried to find the answer, but from my sort of intuition about how the algorithm should work, the way it works is like as you go up the list, a bad performance starts to pull you down. But if you're lower on it, then it's more about the number of good results that you have. So, like, if you don't have very many good performances, then the difference between, like, 3, not doing so great, 365ths and 465ths is not that much. So, like, for a top player, drowning in pools will be, in general, a larger negative. But for a lower level player where they're not necessarily going to be making top 32, top 16 every time, another one shouldn't be a huge hit.
That's fair.
Okay, so basically it didn't matter you got 129th, really, because you didn't have anything to propel him.
More the opportunity cost of having that tournament and not
following up
on it. Yeah,
and
we did actually.
Go on.
Sorry, I'm just gonna sort of chime in something that's relevant. We actually did include something new this time around, which was, I guess I call it the like consistency metric, which is basically at like your tournaments that you went to this past season, how many or what is the sort of percentage chance that you beat all of the sort of non-ranked opponents that you played? So like if you get if you come out on winner's side and the first person you play and the first person that you lose to is like PGR ranked or going to be PGR ranked at the end of the season, then you get like a consistency score of 100% for that tournament. And then if you make it out in losers and then play somebody that's going to be PGR ranked in losers first because you lost to somebody unranked,
that's 50%.
Then you're 50, and if you go 0-2 or 2-2 or 3-2, then you're a 0%. And there's some other, like, if for some reason you have a bracket where you play like 6 unranked people in a row, then you get a slightly higher than 50% score because
that makes sense.
If you're getting 6 people deep into the bracket, you're probably, playing somebody that's good that just isn't going to make the rankings for whatever reason. He upsets somebody else good.
Yeah.
And then after that, we sort of average all those scores out. And that gives you kind of like a multiplier. So if you if you're competing and beating all these unranked players and consistently getting to top 32 winners side, or at a B tier top 16 winners side, like whatever it is, if you're consistently making that, then you get sort of a benefit, even though none of those players that you beat are the ranked players, because you don't have that opportunity cost loss of, losing to the unranked players. And so we didn't, originally in V4, we didn't have a metric to price that in. We kind of had what we called like gym losses, which were basically what is your win rate against these unranked players? But now, and we kind of had that included as like a dummy player. So like, if you had a better win ratio against those players, then your score would be boosted a little bit. But now we kind of more directly apply it using this sort of consistency metric. And what that ends up doing is it shows off the people that, maybe they aren't racking up the PGR wins, but they're not getting upset. They're consistent. They're making the same. They're making where they're expected to be, and they're actually getting rewarded for that. And I guess sort of the last part of that is there's sort of a baseline minimum number of tournaments that you're expected to be you're expected to have gone to. And if you're below that baseline, then we can't give you like full credit. So if you're like 4 for 4 at getting out on winner's side, but like the top 30 players on the PGR all went to like 12 tournaments, then we can't give you full credit, like 100% for going 4 for 4. So we price that in as well.
Yeah, long story short, like your upset factor. Like, are you losing every now and then the second you get to top 32 or never? There were actually 3 people that didn't lose to anybody not on the list. And one of them was actually Dabuz. So that kind of like highlights the sort of like consistency factor that you normally can't quantify with just placements and just set counts. And it also seeks to control a little bit the fluke situation. So like, not using Zaki primarily as an example, but to just like expound upon it since we were talking about it, like he doesn't really have a high like confidence factor because he doesn't, he loses to anybody else all the time.
That's fair.
Like MK Leo is the outlier. So if you're not having that many upsets, then you get rewarded for that, and we finally found a way to like quantify that going forward, and that actually helps a lot for even the ordering of top 10, because while some people are like, oh well, they got first and second at such and such, it's like, well, did they lose to anybody that's not ranked, or did they have any upsets that were not ranked? And so, going forward, that really helps a lot there.
I think I saw through that line there. I got the third eye going. I got my list. I got my list together. It moved around a couple spots.
Suar, you're showing them the matrix, Suar.
Yeah, I can see your poker face. And I agree with in my eyes, what I just have is like, and 50 through 40 is usually the people that in that area is usually the people that have that are going to be new players, like the new to the PGR area, and the people that had one good showing and that's kind of it. Those are usually the people that are going to be in that area. 31 through 40 is also kind of it. You may see a couple of like players that did specifically well. I kind of say like use an example of like Captain L. But that's usually like there's going to be a lot less, maybe one person, in that area that's just new and just did really well. And then you get to like 1 through 10. Those are usually the people you're always going to have the same like 1 through 10, maybe 1 through 15-ish people. They're just going to be shifted around. Those are the people that are just solidly the best. These are the people that are always going to be at the top of every bracket that you probably will see. Yeah. And then the 21, the other, the middle area. Those are the people that are just like what Suar just described. You're gonna get to your round 1, and it's gonna be like the top 10 player, and you're probably gonna lose. You probably would bet on the guy losing, and And as
a contrast, like I think Anti had like one of the lowest scores, which makes sense. Tying into the fact that like he is Anti and like to an extent like MVD and MVD a couple seasons ago, like and ESAM a little bit too. Because they travel a lot, they go to a lot of events, and they're always learning new matchups and stuff with new people.
Yep.
Like if if you expose yourself to that point of all these things, and you have those chances to lose as well, and like usually like that loss to Anti, that win on Anti, that win on MVD and ESAM put a lot of people on the map, and then drags their score down. Versus people like Void, who that almost never happened to. Dabuz, obviously that never happens to. Zero back then. Even Leo, that barely happens. Barely.
Now we can say barely.
Yeah, so...
last season there was, what's his name? Mute Ace Evo.
Yeah, there was.
Who did Mute Ace beat at Evo?
Leo.
Yeah, Leo. Right, I forget. Oh my gosh, I almost forget he was even at the tournament because he didn't...
shots!
No, I'm just saying, like, he lost to 2 shots. It was so heard of. Like Leo losing to people like that. They're like him losing to 2 unranked players.
False, right?
Just would assume
DK.
Yeah, false. Yep. You would just assume he's not even at the tournament.
That was the beginning of his
Ouch.
big boy problems with, or big body problems with the matchups of DK.
That defined a whole meta.
Yeah. Like,
3 months.
I remember False told me, like, dude, I down threw Leo? Or no, sorry. It's Congo up, yeah, it's up throw, up air, yeah. He up threw Leo, and he air dodged 3 times. Like,
let's go.
And then and False didn't even jump, right? So he was baiting, but like, Leo was that scared. Like, Leo was
looking over the shoulders, like,
scared.
Here I come.
MK Leo air dodged 3 times in a row with no sort of like, you know, sort of like stimulus to like cause that, other than the fact that he was so scared of False. And yeah, that happens.
That's the beginning of a meta.
Yeah. Thank God we're getting rid of this meta soon. Anyways, going into Q&A, we're gonna close out. Probably a couple questions here because it is now almost like over a little an hour. But taking from chat, any questions that you have for any of us or the PGR in general. I do have one here that I just saw, and if you guys see any in chat or if you saw anywhere anything, you could just ask a question. But the first one over here is Tass, you can help on this, but what is the opinion of A+ being essentially the S tier this season in the eye of the people? Is the team thinking of adjusting the scale, or are you all confident in it?
To be honest, I guess this is a question for me. So to be honest, I feel that the scale adjustment was a reaction on our part to the sort of glut of 2 GGC tournaments. And so we thought, or we were prepared in case that became the new normal. And so we shifted the scale to make it more difficult to reach the higher echelons. And then we realized this time around that
we yeeted hard.
Yeah, it was not necessary. So as far as I know, I think we're going to just straight up revert it back to where it was at the start of this year. And so the interesting thing about that is if you applied V4's tournament tier system to V5, Genesis 5 is an S tier, Hyrule Saga is an S tier, CEO is an S tier, Gommel and Momocon are like very close to S tier.
What about Frostbite?
Frostbite was, where is it on this list?
The way they're ordered on the cards, by the way, are shown to be their relative strength. So on the 3x3, you have Hyrule Saga, and everything else. So let me show
Frostbite is
really
just
quick.
below them. So Frostbite, I believe, would be A+ tier. I gotta double check actually.
Yeah, so the biggest tournaments in order: Hyrule Saga, CEO, Genesis 5, Gommel, Momocon, Frostbite, Smash Masters, Las Vegas, Switch Fest, and Smash and Splash 4.
Is Genesis 5 counting the DQs that happen as well, or no?
Oh,
everything already counts for DQs. So, Dabuz, to answer your question, Gommel, Momocon, Frostbite are all sort of in that almost range where they're big. They don't quite make the S tier by V4 label, but they're big.
Yep.
So they would still be A tier basically, but.
And to speak more to that, like, we were in a situation at the end of last year where people were just slamming us with like, there's so many S tiers, PGR in shambles, blah blah blah.
We want to break.
Yeah.
There's no value in an S tier anymore.
Yeah, and that was a
unfortunately. Unfortunately, we listen to the people.
Yeah,
sometimes you can't do that.
PGR and shambles. You just can't win, huh?
Can't do it.
Not really. We got used to it. But you know, it's the same stuff though, right? Like if at the end of the season, like there's only one A+ or A tier, then like you know that counted the most. So like it's not something where like this season wasn't competitive or any less competitive because there was no 2GGC or there was no 0 or there was no whatever. It's just like how we just try to like define things for the community, and we also realize that like for tournaments it's really important to be able to market and advertise things, and people just know S tier is just like the event they gotta go to. So you know, going forward, like we'll be more lax about it, because we the way things were looking last year, I mean, people were just getting under, like we did not imagine that the top 10 of the world would be able to get under the same roof on a monthly basis. That was
that was just
Like that was just not expected. And of course with the prize money, the compendiums, all this other stuff, it was very possible. And the hype of the circuit and all this other stuff. And so, you know, with things announced at the beginning of this year, how we saw things, like we kind of like stepped back and made it just a little harder. So like an S tier felt like an S tier, but alas, it was all for naught. So.
And I like it better that way.
Fair.
Yeah.
I specifically like how Season 5 shook out because earlier when you guys were all talking about, oh, this person is on here, but like I really only saw them as C tiers, but like C tiers actually meant something now because there was an A tier every month and an S tier every other week. So if you stayed at home and you did well and you defended your region, you actually got rewarded for that. Like Ned, like he got on here basically because he stayed in the Midwest and just beat the people that came through.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I respect. Like I was glad to see that that the C tiers and the B tiers really did matter this time around. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I guess moving on to the next question.
You got one?
One I've seen come up a couple times. A player that we haven't talked about yet. Just off the cuff, to our 3 non-PG guests. Vinny. Is Vinny going to be top 40 or is he a snub?
I think
I was
top 40.
we were going to answer this because I was like, do we
It'll be
talk about
39, I think.
All right, one at a time. Dabuz, snub or on? Vinny.
39 because I believe he has a set win on Fatality and he has one on me. I know he also has a set win on Samsora, getting a good placing at what was the last event of the season?
CEO?
Yeah, he has a set win on Samsora at CEO along with, what was it, top 16, sub 17 placing. So right away, that's 3 PGR, good PGR like wins, and a good placing at least 2 PGR events. Oh, and then he also, I think, did okay at Pro Priority 3.
Was that PGR event?
That was a C tier, yes.
Oh, it didn't make it? Okay, yeah. He got
So
7th set, I think.
I mean, it's still 7th at C tier, which as you said matters.
No,
so, like,
definitely pretty good, yeah.
so I think he'll be like just at 39, to be honest. I was actually kind of expecting him at like 40 to 50, so that's better than I was thinking.
Zinoto, snub or on, Vinny?
I think Vinny is going to be on there. He did, like Buzz was saying, he has pretty good wins. And he at Glitch, he got like 7th or at 9th maybe? I think it was 7th. He got 7th. At CEO, he got 9th, like beating Samsora.
Chat says 9th for Glitch.
It is 9th for Glitch?
It's 9th at CEO. Like, who's man?
Yeah, it is 9th
like,
at CEO.
Like, Vinny just came out of nowhere.
Chat lied, 7th at Glitch.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I figured. And
it was 9th at CEO.
I didn't know Port Priority. Yeah, I didn't know Port Priority made it to the status of PGR, and he did pretty decent at that too. So he has the things to make it there. I honestly did expect him to be into 41 to 50 area. Okay. And if he's not there, then, if he's not at this, if he's not, if he is in the 31 through 40 area, he's either going to be 40 or like 39, 30. I think MVD is probably going to be like 40-ish, and then maybe Vinny at 39 or something like that.
Okay, Mask, snub or on?
I think he'll be on. I mean, just having listened to those wins that you guys just said. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I was kind of sleeping. I was like, well, I don't really remember anything. But I was sleeping on 9th at CEO. How did I not? I was there and I didn't even realize.
It's not wild. So. All season, just kind of low key, and then 9th at CEO. Like,
he
does
huge. He did the same thing last season. Last season, he got 9th at what was it called? DreamHack, beating Leo.
Yeah. He just decides to turn up sometimes. It's like, you know what, it's time to win.
He goes like one event a season, and then like when he goes to one event, no one's ready for the fact that he's really good. Because he's on with me, so I play him pretty regularly, and it's like, god dang, he's so good. He doesn't travel to anything. So it's like,
anywhere,
it's so frustrating to lose to him just because he is super underrated.
Yeah.
Skill doesn't go anywhere. People do.
I think the biggest problem with that is like, so players like Vinny, losing to players like Vinny really hurt, especially for Dabuz. It'll really hurt players like Dabuz, just because Vinny isn't, he's not a ranked player. So it's looking at it like, we all know how good he is, but like the fact that he's not ranked makes it so you lose a bunch of points, and then beating him doesn't really like do much for players like Dabuz because he has no. It's definitely a little bit of a conundrum.
Take it up with them, because we can't really do anything about that.
I mean, you can't do about it.
I'm about to drag Vinny to events, be like, bro.
Vinny just has to go places.
Yeah.
Tell him to go places.
So we're reaching 9:30, so I'll have this be the last question, just so we can all get out of here. And I think this is a good one, because TAS has probably been asked this, but I want to know your thoughts as well, because I think Dabuz actually asked me this too. generically named, asks, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. It says, is there any consideration to people falling into loser's bracket early? They lost a set, but then they can gain twice as many wins versus someone who stays in winners for longer. Can we get the mathematical answer to that first?
Okay, I guess this sort of is covered by the confidence ratio or confidence percentage that I mentioned earlier, where it's like, if you have that unranked loss, that's a black mark on your record, basically. Period. And it's not really the only way that you can correct it or account for it is to get out in winner's side of more and other events, and at the same time, you can gain twice as many wins. But if those wins, if you're just like, if you're Tweak or MKLeo and you just decide, okay, I'm going to throw a round of 128 just to farm wins all the way through, well, sure, you can go for that, but now you're at a single elimination tournament, so
yeah,
and
living life on the wild side.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting twice as many wins, sure, but each win is putting you half as far through the bracket as somebody who's still in winner's side. So currently we don't do any correction for whether or not a set was won in winners or losers. And to be honest, I feel that there's enough of a deterrent of like, now you got one more loss and then you're out,
trying to win.
to prevent people from trying to pull something like that.
Yeah, the losers bracket round 1 strat of gaming the system is just not ideal.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like...
Also,
I'm trying to win a tournament.
Dabuz?
Also, just consider this. You did mention before how there's a whole like consistency thing. So that would hurt your consistency, like
yeah, exactly. That's what
ratio.
Yeah,
and just even outside that, that's a bad loss. Like if you're like a top 25 player, you just lose like that. Like, bro, you have to get like 3 or 4 PGR wins back to back to make up for that loss in most people's minds and probably the stats itself. So
yeah,
I don't really think that's logical.
Yeah.
Starting early in losers.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. In theory, there's like a possible scenario where it's like you are Dabuz, you are at CEO, you are in top 16 winners side, you're playing like somebody that you've beaten 5 times already this season, so you already have a great record on them, so you're not worried about the head-to-head. So you throw against them because you know that in loser side, you have... I don't know, you have Naro, you have Mr. R, you have Komorikir, you have whoever the heck was there.
Zero.
And you trust, you have 0 in there. You trust that you yourself are going to pull off 7 straight set wins to win the tournament and rack up those extra 3 to 4 PGR wins. It's going to knock you up 1 or 2 more spots in the final rankings.
That was my plan, CEO. That was my plan.
In theory, there's a possible chance where that is a better result than winning through winner's side.
Dude, that would trump Nairo's SmashCon run. That would trump any run in history to try to throw strategically to get more win. That is some next level yeeting for sure.
What about instead of throwing to get more wins? Say, for example, because like this is a good example. Using Dabuz was actually a good example because it made me think of it. So say Dabuz has to play, if Dabuz stays in winner's side, he'd have to play Como or Tweak into, I don't know, the other one. Let's say that, right? Into the other one, into winner's side. Yeah, as opposed to losing right before them, playing a series of players he normally would win against, and then, you know, Como Tweak would have to play each other, so they would put the whoever loses on the other side of loser's bracket. So then now he only technically has to beat one of them instead of beating 2 of them. So like, you know, there's that situation. I don't know. This doesn't even sound like.
I can see it. I can see that as well. But then like, it's Smash 4, so realistically, there's like a 25% chance that like Nairo is going to get upset, and now he's got to play Nairo when he thought he was playing like 6WX.
But Dabuz's factor is 100%.
There's actually an interesting thing that goes into that, because I view that sometimes. Like, I'll look at losers brackets sometimes, and I'll be like, I'm not going to throw, but I sometimes go, you know what? If I lose here, it's not the worst thing.
It's not the worst thing.
So sometimes, I agree. Sometimes it's like, okay, I have to study for 4 sets. But one player I know, if I lose there specifically, it's not as bad as losing to the other 3 players in terms of brackets. So maybe I'll care a little bit less about studying for that set with my limited time, because it's a weird situation.
That's very fair.
You're talking about you, man. What was the Gagamo? I was looking at my brain. had I lost to ESAM, I wouldn't have had to play somebody that I normally would lose to until I got to like losers, the round before losers semis, right?
Yeah.
Then I beat ESAM, lost to lost to Leo, and then played you, Dabuz, for 9. I was thinking of it myself. I was like, man, if I just lose here, I would have to play like everybody I normally beat and get guaranteed 5th, and then go 50-50 with a guy that like I can sometimes beat.
What's it worth to you? What's it worth to you?
You got it.
brackets are.
Yeah,
It's like Nairo randomly falls in the losers bracket, and suddenly we got a problem.
And then you're like, God dang it! I mean, that's the scary factor. Is like in this game, this isn't a game where you can just plan to lose and then plan like 4 matches ahead.
Because the
amount of times was like, oh, Nairo just lost to Captain L. Because
he goes Super Saiyan,
and I was playing busted, and it's like
Nairo don't want to lose no more.
You were thinking about the Naifus.
You talking about Nairo having a single elimination bracket? Everybody else has.
Or even the inverse. You're like, okay, I have to.
And they've already lost. So goodbye.
Actually, this exact thing happened. Something similar happened at Hyros. The inverse, where like I was expecting to fight Wadi, and then he lost to Elegant, which I was just like, this is crazy. And like that helped me so much.
You're playing Rosa Luigi.
Yeah, but like, I didn't want to fight Wadi at all, to be honest. So, let's say I planned to lose, or let's say I thought I would have lost to Wadi, and it would put me in a shitty spot. Because if I lost Elegant, it put me in a really shitty spot. I remember. I forget exactly what it was. I remember thinking it's really bad losing there.
Yep.
So, but if I decided I want to lose early to avoid most likely fighting Wadi, that could completely change things, but that would have worked against me now that Wadi loses Elegant and I get Luigi.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Long story short, you have to pull some like IQ 3K sort of bracket research to try to botch your winners to like get all these like wins and losers, and it's just not viable. So that answers that. We're gonna close out here. I want to thank everyone again for coming to the round table. We had Practical TAS, Dabuz, Zinoto, Dom, Mask. Any shout-outs you guys want to give before we go ahead and raid someone's stream after this? Go ahead, anybody.
Right.
Or Practical.
Shout-outs to PGstats. I was like, they definitely got it. This is something that we wouldn't have had. All these opportunities starts with them. So.
Thanks.
Shout-outs to PGstats.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Shout-outs to Zinoto for shouting at PGstats. That's the best shout-out that could have happened.
Oh my god.
Dom, bracket manipulation.
Dom, any shout-outs? Happy birthday again, by the way. How old are you?
22.
Oh,
yo, let's go.
Taylor Swift would be proud.
I knew somebody was going to say it.
Yeah. Mask, anybody? Any shout-outs? Any...
No, I mean, well, of course, just thank you guys for all the hard work that you do. Thanks for having me out with you guys. I mean, I would be wasting this opportunity if I didn't say follow me on Twitter. Please.
All the Twitter tweeting, Twitter, whatever is down on the left, Dabuz and Dom, Mask, all listed there.
I like it.
Yeah.
I just want to say shoutouts to the Smash 4 community for accepting me as one of their own. Because realistically, I came in, I'm a melee guy. And I mean, I know the Smash community is hashtag one unit and whatnot, but I just appreciate that I can come in and talk my stuff to you guys, and you guys say, you know what, he probably has a point.
Okay.
So thank you guys.
It's easy to trust an algorithm, and you're an algorithm. So a lot of people, fun fact, thought that Practical TAS was a bot on Twitter for the longest time.
I'm one of those people.
He is not a bot. This is actually the face reveal stream for Practical TAS.
Yeah.
Every stream.
Every time I stream is the face reveal stream.
But yeah, thanks again, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and raid somebody. Stay tuned. We have the MPGR 31 through 40 coming out tomorrow, also on Red Bull. Also, this back-to-back thing is really popping. It's really fun. It's like Christmas and New Year's every day.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And then we got 31 through 40 on Thursday for Smash 4, so we'll see what comes true in these predictions or what doesn't, who gets snubbed, who doesn't. Go ahead and follow these guys. They're all great gentlemen, and we'll be seeing you next time. So peace out.